I'm Anita Wardlaw, and welcome to a fresh new day. It is a wonderful week. There are fantastic speakers, so many things going on to celebrate this great nation of ours and First Nations groups and the wonderful things the Lord is doing through them. It's the evening of Thursday, June 20th. The week has been off the charts. Native American Week. I was so honored have the privilege of meeting a wonderful man of God with so many hats I can't even describe him myself. Brother Mark Charles, thank you for coming.
You're welcome. Thank you. Please allow me to introduce myself in Navajo. Yat Mark Charles Yinishia, Sin Bake Dana Nishlin, do Tohiglini Bashichin, Sin Bake Dana Bashiche, do Tochini Bashinella. In Navajo, we introduce ourselves with our 4 clans. My mother is of American heritage, of Dutch heritage, so I always say that I am of the Wooden Shoe clan. And my father's mother is Tohiglini, of the waters that flow together people. My mother's father is also Sinbake Dana, of the Wooden Shoe people. And my father's father is Tochitni, which is the Bitterwater people, one of the original clans of our Navajo people.
I'm so honored that you agreed to come on a fresh new day. Can you just briefly tell the viewing audience what you talked about tonight?
Yes, tonight I shared the story of the journey God's brought me through, the Creator has brought me through to understand more of His heart for racial reconciliation. It started about 10 years ago, maybe even 12 years ago, when I was first called to pastor a church in Denver, Colorado called the Christian Indian Center. And I was meeting with a small group at the time because I wanted to understand from Scripture what was God's call for racial reconciliation. I didn't want to read what other authors said. I didn't want to read sermons that had been written. I wanted to understand as directly as I could from the Scriptures what God's heart was for racial reconciliation. So we did a survey of the Bible, pulled out every passage we could think of that had to do with racial reconciliation, and at the end of our time, several months, we wrote this definition. In obedience to God, racial reconciliation is a commitment to building cross-cultural relationships of forgiveness, repentance, love, and hope that result in walking in beauty with our fellow man and God.
That's beautiful. Now you've done a lot of specific things to make that a reality. Can you tell us what those are?
Yes, there are several projects I've been working on. The first one I started maybe about 4 or 5 years ago. It was in response to the lack of a voice, a national voice of the Native American community in the political landscape. And I began to advocate for what I call a 51st virtual Native American state. So our Navajo reservation is 26,000 square miles.
Yes.
That's bigger than 9 other states. We have over almost 300,000 enrolled tribal members. But during presidential campaigns, we don't get campaigned to. And most tribes don't get campaigned to. And the reason for that is, most candidates do not campaign to the general population. They campaign to the Electoral College. And so even our reservation, which resides in 3 different states and is so large, because we are only a part of 3 different congressional districts in each of those states, we don't have any impact on the Electoral College. And most tribes, their reservations are small compared to ours, and so they have no impact on the Electoral College. So the proposal I've written is to allow any enrolled member of a state or federally recognized tribe to give them the option of registering to vote, not in the state or county where they live, but in this virtual Native American state. Then, based on the number of people who register to vote in that state, we would be allotted the appropriate number of votes in the Electoral College. This would force presidential campaigns to our candidates to campaign to our people because now they would need our electoral vote.
How did you come up with that idea?
This idea actually came out of prayer. I was praying one day for our Native peoples, asking the Creator what I could do to help feed our people in a sense. And this vision, I was given this vision, and It was a little larger than I originally I thought I wanted to do. An amendment like this, or a proposal like this, would actually require an amendment to the Constitution to allow this new way of voting in this new virtual state. So it's a very large task, but what I'm learning is when you ask the Creator what He wants to do, He doesn't think in a small scale. He has kind of grand or big ideas, and so knowing who I was talking to, I guess it doesn't surprise me that He had such a large idea of a way to bring a voice to Native peoples and Native communities.
Many people would call that walking by faith.
Yes.
And you know a lot about that because you've actually pastored the church.
Yes, I was a pastor of the Christian Indian Center in Denver, Colorado. It was a church of the Christian Reformed denomination reaching out to the Native community of Denver.
And another big walk of faith was to go back to Navajo land and decide to live in Hogan. Is that correct?
Yes.
Tell me what a Hogan is.
Well, after we were in Denver for 2 years, we were involved in the process of contextualizing Christian worship for the Navajo and other Native cultures. And as we grew in this process, or grew in this, I began to realize that to go further down that road, I really had to be back with my people on our reservation.
And tell them where you grew up, because many people are unexposed to the fact that as Native people, we're many different stories.
Yes, so I grew up in the border town of Gallup, New Mexico, off of the reservation, but I wanted to live back onto the reservation, and so we moved onto a sheep camp, and lived in a traditional hogan, which is a 6-sided building. The door faces east. It's a 1-room dwelling. There's a dirt floor, no running water, no electricity. We were 6 miles off the nearest paved road on a dirt road, living with a family that wove rugs and herded sheep for a living.
This man obviously is difficult to describe very quickly. A man who's done many great initiatives, and I think one of the best things we need to do, because we're just about to run out of film, and it's raining and pouring and people are leaving this gathering, is to tell everyone what your website is.
People can read more about my ministry, my website, on wirelesshogan.com. So I use Wireless Hogan that's my online name. So on YouTube, on Facebook, on Twitter, on Blogspot, and on just the normal web, on Wireless Hogan. Anywhere you find Wireless Hogan, WIRELESSHOGAN, that's the name I'm using all around the internet.
Fantastic. Now that's not all. You've done some earth-shattering things as well, going all the way to Washington, D.C. Is that correct?
Yes, I learned about a year and a half ago, actually on December 19 of 2011, I learned that the 2010 Department of Defense Appropriations Act, HR, House Resolution 3326, contained an apology to Native Americans that was buried on page 45 of that 67-page document. In subsection 8113 is a 7-bullet point apology to Native Americans titled Apology to Native Peoples of the United States. This apology was inserted into this bill by Senator Brownback, now Governor Brownback of Kansas, and it was signed by President Obama on December 19 of 2009. This apology was neither announced, publicized, or read by either the Congress or the White House. I learned about it on the 2nd anniversary of the signing of the bill just by chance. I happened to publish an article that way advocating for an apology from the president, and someone alluded to this bill. I looked it up and found it actually did exist. This apology did exist. When I learned about it, I was deeply hurt. I was deeply hurt that our nation and our leaders thought they could apologize to Native communities without actually speaking to us. The apology was very vague. It did not mention any specific tribe, any specific treaty, or any specific injustice. And it ended with a disclaimer saying nothing in this apology was legally binding. So I didn't like the apology, but because it existed, I felt it had to be publicized. And because our leaders, members of Congress and our president, were not willing to publicize it themselves, I decided I would go to Washington, D.C. and do it. So I spent most of 2012 traveling around the country, writing about, speaking about, publicizing this apology. And on the third anniversary of the signing of the bill, December 19 of 2012, I reserved the space in front of the Capitol building and we hosted a public reading of this bill. We had the apology translated into two native languages. It was translated into Navajo and into Ojibwe. Jim Northrup, an elder from the Ojibwe tribe, did the translation into Ojibwe and came to DC with us and read the apology in Ojibwe. And Ben Stoner, an American missionary who's worked on our reservation for nearly 40 years and speaks our language almost fluently, he read the apology that was translated into Navajo. I then read the apology in English, and I addressed our peoples, and I actually encouraged our native communities. I said, not out of bitterness, not out of anger, not out of resentment, but out of respect, we cannot accept this apology. Out of respect for ourselves, out of respect for our president, out of respect for our Congress, out of respect for our nation, we need to tell our peoples and our country and our leaders that we deserve better and that they can do better. And so I encouraged our people to not accept this apology, but to wait and for something better to come.
And tell the audience what you would consider much better.
If Senator Brownback had come to me 5 years ago and said, I'm thinking about doing this apology and I'd like your thoughts on it, I would have told him that I don't think our nation is ready to apologize. An analogy that I've been using for the past 7 or 8 years to start a conversation that will lead towards reconciliation is I tell people that being Native American and living in the United States of America, it feels like our native communities are this old grandmother who has a very large and a very beautiful house. Years ago, some people came into our house and they locked us upstairs in the bedroom. Today, our house is full of people. They're sitting on our furniture, they're eating our food, they're having a party inside our house. They've since come upstairs and unlocked the door to our bedroom, but it's much later and we're tired, we're old, we're weak, and we're sick. And so we can't or we don't come out. But the thing that hurts us the most, the thing that causes our native communities the most pain, is that virtually nobody from this party ever comes upstairs, seeks out the grandmother in the bedroom, sits down next to her on the bed, and simply says, thank you. Thank you for letting us be in your house. And this is an analogy I've used around our country and even around the world to articulate the pain of Native peoples and to invite the immigrants of our land into a conversation of gratitude that I hope will lead towards reconciliation.
To me, it seems that not only do people not say thank you, they don't want to realize that Native Americans exist.
Yes.
What did you say?
Yes,
more
that
like
is
invisible people, anything else but that.
For 500 years, that has been the battle our Native peoples have fought. You know, when Christopher Columbus got lost at sea and was landed on the shores here, he went home and told his people that he discovered a new land. Well, you can't discover a land that's already inhabited by millions. So right away that shows you the worldview that he had of, he didn't even see the Native peoples not only as his equals, but he didn't even see us as people, as other human beings living here. And so he went home, he went back and claimed to have discovered this land. And now here it is, 500 years later, and our nation, our leaders, our president, our Congress thought they could apologize to us without actually speaking to us.
Exactly.
It's the same marginalization, it's the same invisibleness that we've been struggling against for 500 years.
It's kind of like saying hello, welcome, and having your back.
Yes.
Don't you think?
Yes. And so one of the goals of this analogy of the grandmother in the house is to invite people to come upstairs and acknowledge that in many practical ways they are guests in someone else's house.
And you wouldn't honor someone by turning your back to them.
No.
Face to face.
Absolutely.
Right. Well, I'm so glad that you came face to face on a fresh new day. And please tell us your website.
You can read more about my work, it's this apology and my work on reconciliation, on my website, which is wirelesshogan.com. I chose that name because I lived in a hogan that was wireless. There was no electricity, but I could actually get on the internet and do my computer work by tethering my laptop to my cell phone, hanging my cell phone from the ceiling, charging my batteries in the car, and I could work from there. And so it really was a wireless hogan in every sense of the word. So online, on my website is wirelesshogan.com. On Twitter, on Facebook, on YouTube, I use Wireless Hogan as my username. So anywhere you can find Wireless Hogan online, that's me. It's spelled WIRELESSHOGAN.
And not only is he very active in trying to seek proper representation for Native peoples, he's also an IT specialist, aren't you?
Yes, I worked for a number of years as a computer programmer. And so I've been online. I always tell people I've been online since the invention of the internet. And so I try to use it in a lot of my work and to use it to inform people and bring people into these conversations that need to take place. We have a YouTube video of the reading of the apology. I actually have another YouTube video of that analogy of the grandmother in the house. We try to use all these tools online. Every morning, in following the traditions of my elders, I wake up and I watch the sunrise and I pray and sing songs with my daughters as the sun rises near our house. Almost every morning I take a picture of that sunrise, post it on my Facebook account, and share it with the followers of my Facebook page. So I'm using the internet in every way I can to get the word out, but also to share Native culture and the beauty of our reservation, our land, with as many people as I can.
That's wonderful. And you're a UCLA graduate, is that correct?
Yes, I had the privilege of attending UCLA and graduated from there in 1995.
Excellent. Well, we are so honored that you came on A Fresh New Day. A Fresh New Day also can be seen on YouTube, A Fresh New Day TV with Anita. So this will come on YouTube after it's aired on North Metro TV. And I can't say it enough. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you, Anita. Thank you very much, and thank you everyone for their support and their encouragement in all of this work that has been very challenging but incredibly rewarding.
God bless you.
Thank you.